to
Aye.
take a call, so Dr. David Clark.
I'm very, very pleased to take a call, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Chair, the State Sector and Public Finance Reform Bill is one the Labor Party will be supporting, albeit with some reservations. We opposed the bill at first reading, and those present here in the debate will remember that. Ultimately, changes that were forced at the Finance and Expenditure Committee by Labor and the state sector unions have averted disaster for government workers who were set to lose their redundancy entitlements and employment rights. And I guess I want to thank the members opposite who engaged in those negotiations in good faith, because it has become a better bill and one that will hopefully stand the test of time. These public sector bills are important for their longevity, for the fact that they survive various governments and provide some kind of certainty for future planning for the good of all New Zealand. And so I do thank members opposite who were involved in that process, as well as the unions, the PSA and the CTU, and the Labor members of the committee who fought hard to ensure that disaster was averted for government workers who would otherwise have lost redundancy entitlements and employment rights. The bill, as I said, was heavily amended in the committee in response to the strong submissions from state sector employees themselves and from their representatives. Tough negotiations at the committee have produced this better bill, and these employees' rights, are now better protected than they otherwise would have been. The redundancy provisions that were improved mean that employees retain their entitlements unless accepting a position that is no less favourable than their existing package. Mr. Bennett opposite, I can see, is bursting to make his contribution too, but Mr. Bennett, I will look forward to your contribution in due course. In the meantime, I'm just outlining the important provisions that are now in the bill. The transitional arrangements too have been improved in our view, so that collective agreements and individual agreements are now sunsetted equally, and that's important, and that will take effect. The government workforce policy statements have been revised to ensure that all existing legal and bargaining rights have been protected, and there are conflict of interest protections in there as well. So while Labor has some concerns with some aspects of the bill, with the support of unions, significant change was brokered, and that means that Labor will support this passage of the bill. Overall, the bill is an omnibus bill which amends the three principal statutes governing the management of the state sector and the public finances in New Zealand. So it's not to be underestimated just how important this bill is to the future of our country. It won't be one of the sexiest bills to be debated in this Parliament, if I can put it that way, but it is an extremely important bill. And the powers that it will give to chief executives, to the ministers, in terms of reporting requirements, in terms of the way that happens, in terms of the way in which they can work with appropriations, will have long-term effects. They will make some things more efficient, and hopefully the right balance has been struck in terms of providing accountability to go with these measures. So in part one of the bill, the main changes it makes involve strengthening the role of the State Services Commissioner. That's the first one that should be noted, so that the states, to make sure that the role of the State Services Commissioner in leading the state services and ensuring that agencies work together collaboratively as a system is strengthened. And it's set out for the first time ever in legislation, the Commissioner's role. Now that's a very significant step, but an important step. The Commissioner's functions will be broadened to include the ability to transfer chief executives within the public service when a vacancy arises, and to draft government policy on workforce and employment matters from the perspective of the state sector system as a whole. This power would not extend, of course, to determining pay or conditions. Extending the responsibilities of chief executives to their ministers to include matters relating to the collective interests of government and stewardship of the interests of the Crown and departments in the medium and long term is another significant change that is being proposed. And chief executives will have the power to delegate statutory functions and powers between agencies, and subject to certain safeguards to non-government service providers. Now, Mr. Chair,
Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Chair, the proof will be in the pudding with these particular amendments. How these interests are played out, the kinds of delegated statutory functions that we're asking, and I speak collectively as...
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair for the dinner break. This debate is interrupted and the committee is suspended until 7 p.m.